In today's world, people are more disconnected than ever. Anxiety, loneliness, and depression are rampant, and young people are desperate for meaningful relationships. From the beginning, Edge has created opportunities for people to develop in their personal, professional, and spiritual lives.
My relationship with my mentor is awesome. Shout out to Jason. He's there for me in terms of any questions I have, both professionally and personally. Earlier this year, my dad had COVID, and he was one of the first people to check in with me regarding that. So it's nice to know that he cares about me as a whole human being.
Edge continues to provide ways for you to develop as a whole person, to grow yourself, and to find your role in your community and make an impact. Edge offers a variety of programs and events to provide community and safe spaces for whole person development to occur. Edge Groups, Edge Work, and Edge Events are our current product offerings, but we are always looking to expand as a way to better serve our community and to be able to positively impact more lives. We believe that people grow better together. We are all made for community. Once you have expressed interest in participating in an Edge group, we will pair you with 5 to 7 other young professionals and a carefully selected Edge-trained mentor. And together, you will navigate life, including personal growth, career development, and faith. Edge group participants commit to a 1-hour virtual gathering with their group every other week for 1 year. And because Edge Groups is a virtual program, you can experience the power of intergenerational mentoring from anywhere.
I'm Tony McEwen. I work for Corteva AgriScience, and I lead our global HR service centers. I do think I have the best Edge group because these women are constantly showing up for one another. So while I'm technically the mentor, there's a lot of moments where I sit back and I don't say a lot, and they just speak into each other's lives.
Edge at Work is a 1-year cohort-based program that focuses strictly on personal and professional development. Leveraging a curriculum that we co-created with Butler University, emerging leaders are provided a safe space to focus on their own personal and professional development. We focus on everything from mental wellness to overcoming failure and self-limiting behaviors to receiving feedback and managing change. Edge Events is where our entire community comes together. Events are the glue that bring folks from all of our programs together to share life, learn from each other, and address relevant topics within our lives and communities.
I struggled in my early 20s with figuring out you have to take ownership of your career and choices. I think Edge really helped me gain clarity to make those choices.
I wanted to get involved because I frankly wish I would have had something like this 20 years ago when I started my career.
If you are a young person who is looking for deeper connection and community, Edge is for you. For those more seasoned, we are always in need of strong mentors. Your life experiences should be shared with others. If you are a business owner or executive and would like to provide a unique opportunity to your employees, Edge at Work would aid in their own personal and professional development journeys. Learn more about how we can partner with you at edgementoring.org. Our next speaker is an entrepreneur extraordinaire and true Renaissance man. He has authored 2 best-selling books and is co-owner of the NBA's Atlanta Hawks. Jesse and his wife Sara Blakely, founder of Spanx, have 4 kids. On top of all of that, he is an ultra-marathoner. May I introduce to you Jesse Itzler.
Hey everybody, this is Jesse Itzler. Before I even get started, I just want to say one thing. I have one agenda here today, and that's to provide value. As an entrepreneur, as a father, as a son, as a husband, as a friend, as a business owner, I've always said to myself, if I could just provide as much value as possible, over-index on value, amazing things are gonna happen. So that's my agenda for today. Very quickly, I took a public speaking class when I was in college. It was a throwaway class. I needed 3 extra credits, and my friend was like, take the public speaking class. It's so easy. So I signed up for this public speaking class, and it completely changed my life because everything that we do is public speaking. Whether it's sales, whether it's building a culture, talking to your children or your friends at home, everything is centered around public speaking. And in this class, I remember the professor saying there are 4 components to public speaking. The first thing is open up with a story. So I'll do that in a second. The second thing is tell your audience what it is they're gonna learn and where they're going. People wanna know where they're going. So I'll tell you in a minute what it is we're gonna discuss today. The third thing is deliver on that promise. And the fourth thing is leave them with actionable, immediate actionable takeaways. So I'm gonna go through that whole process right now. Let me open with the story. So first, I started out, believe it or not, as a rapper. I started out in the hip hop world as a rapper, and I did a show called Club MTV. In the early 90s, there was a big show on MTV. It was hosted by a gal named Downtown Julie Brown, and it was the highlight of my career. I did Club MTV. I think like Salt and Pepper was on after me. It was a crazy moment in my life. And right after, I went to do my first concert in Pittsburgh. I flew to Pittsburgh, and I got off the airplane. And when I got off the airplane, there was a magazine rack right when I got off the plane. And on the cover of a magazine called Rap Pages was my picture. I was on the cover of Rap Pages. Like, what? That's like an entrepreneur being on the cover of Forbes. It was a big deal. So I took all the magazines, I took them all. I'm like, I'm gonna send them to my grandma, to my mom. Everyone is getting a copy of Rap Pages magazine because I am on the cover. And as I'm going to the checkout booth, I look at the headline, and in bold letters with my picture, it said, "Are white rappers ruining hip hop?" And I was the poster child of that. And it was a terrible month. Actually, I didn't want to leave my house for like 6 months. I felt like everywhere I went, I'm like, that's the guy that's single-handedly ruining rap. But the funny thing is, not that many people remember it. And a couple of years after that, I started a private jet company that was doing like $120 million in sales like a year later. So we're only just one idea away from changing the whole complexion of our life. What I want to talk about today is I want to talk about something I call the bus ride and how we maximize the bus ride. Before we do that, I just want to share a little bit of background of me. For those that don't know me, again, I'm Jesse Itzler. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a very unconventional journey. I guess, as I just mentioned, I'm probably my biggest business success, I guess, was a company that I started when I was 29 years old with my partner called Marquis Jet. We had no private aviation experience. We owned no airplanes. We really had no money. We had very little connections. And we started this company that became the world's largest private jet card company. We did $5 billion in cumulative sales. We sold it to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway's NetJets division. And prior to that, only a couple years before that, maybe 5 or 6 years before we started the company, I slept on 18 different couches. 18 different friends put me up. I went couch to couch to couch, struggling in multiple different areas. I was a kiddie pool attendant. I sold celery and carrot sticks door to door. I sold chicken, shrimp, and meat through a truck, knocking on people's doors. I had a t-shirt company that failed miserable. I wrote jingles. I tried all of these different things. And then, as I said, just a couple years later, started this company. I was a guest on a private jet, and my partner and I walked onto the airplane. It was like the scene in The Wizard of Oz. I think I was 27 years old. When everything goes from black and white to color. When I walked on the airplane, I'm like, people fly like this? What? I want to fly like this. So that by the time we landed, my partner and I were like, let's start a private jet card company, so we can fly on private planes, and we did. And it ended up being a tremendous success. But when I look back on my journey, after that, I went on to have a coconut water company I partnered with called Zico. We sold it to Coca-Cola. I've been an author. I've had companies that worked, companies that didn't work. I've bootstrapped it. I've raised money. I've done it many different ways. And when I look back on my journey, I'm 52 years old. A couple of themes run steady, and I just want to share them before we jump into the main talk of the day. The first thing is I never negotiate my goals. As an entrepreneur, as business leaders, as parents, like, we don't negotiate our goals. When we have a goal, whatever that is, the end of the movie, we see it in our head, the plot might change, the script might change, but that end of the movie, that big vision, it's unwavering. And I never gave up on any of my dreams. I always really said, like, this is what I want to do, and there were no other options. 2, I always cared the most. Very simple thing. I always put, every year I pick one word that describes what I want my year to be. And for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been the same word, and that's soul. I've always poured my soul into every project. The universe knows when you're doing it for money versus when you're doing it for out of your soul. And when you do it for soul, for the right reasons, that means you don't cut corners. You don't, every I is dotted, every T is crossed, the packaging is right. You don't shortchange yourself. You realize, like, this is my one shot, man. I'm putting it all in. When I wrote my book, Living with the Seal, I gave it to the publisher, and they gave it back to me. They said, reread it just for any proofreading, for any edits or minor changes. And I called the publisher the next day and I said, I need another week. They're like, it's due today. You don't have it. Why do you want a week? It's perfect. I'm like, I have to make it 20% better. That's because I wanted every ounce of my soul to come onto those pages. So I never negotiated my goals. I've always operated with tremendous soul, and I've always wanted it the most. I've always just felt like, the want of my goal is bigger than the obstacles. And if you want it more than the obstacles, you have a great chance of success. If the obstacles are bigger, because we're all going to hit a lot of obstacles and bumps on our journey. If these obstacles are bigger than, than the punch that you wanted it is your fist, your wanted fist, it's going to get you. But if you want it more than the obstacles, I really like your chances. Let's talk about what we want to talk about today. I call it, the bus ride. And let me just give a little background. I was at a funeral. My wife Sarah's grandmother, Nanny, funeral, and the fellow that was conducting the service was saying everything about Nanny's life was beautiful. Nanny did this, and she grew up this way, and she worked here, and she met so-and-so, and she did this, and it was amazing. But the real question isn't what Nanny did in her life. The real question for us is how we lived our life. How do we show up? How do we love? How do we take care of people? How much effort did we put into our projects? How hard did we try? How do we live our life? And it made me start thinking about my own mortality. And the average American lives to be 78. I'm 52. That means if I'm average, I have 25 summers left. We just missed a summer, and I love summers. And I was thinking about my own mortality and how I want to live my life. And I thought about this, and I've shared this on social. I want to share it here real quick. The day we wake up, we go on this bus ride. We get on the bus, the keys go in, and we get the steering wheel, and we start driving the bus. Now, you don't need me. Nobody here needs me to say or tell you how fast life goes. We all know it goes fast. But all of a sudden, the bus starts going. And then maybe you're a senior in high school and they say, Jesse, you better enjoy it. It's going to go quickly. And then you go to college, and maybe you meet somebody and you have a child. You get married, you have a child. And then your child is 10 years old. You're going to be an empty nester in 8 years. And the bus keeps going. The bus doesn't care if you get sick. The bus doesn't care if you're lazy. The bus doesn't care if you take days off. There's no brakes on the bus. You can't slow it down. There's no reverse on the bus. It just keeps going until one day, boom, the bus ride stops. It's all over. Man, I'm 51, 52 years old now. This much of my life, it's over. I can't get this back. I don't care what happened here. If you're divorced, overweight, broke, unemployed, I don't care. It's done. What I care about, what we care about or should care about, is how do we maximize from this moment right now, right where we are right now, until the end of the bus, till it's all over. And we never know when it's going to stop. How do we maximize from here to here? Now, I don't have enough time in our 20 minutes to talk about all the ways and things that I do, but I do want to share 4 or 5 principles that have really helped me. Okay, the first thing that I do is I take care of the bus, man. Now, this might sound obvious, but I take care of the vessel of myself, health. It's the #1 thing for me. And think of it this way. If you're a bazillionaire and you have yachts and sports teams and airplanes and big bank accounts and everything fancy, and you're on an amazing vacation on one of those yachts I just mentioned, but you have a sore throat, and every time you swallow, all you think about is your sore throat. You're not thinking about your sports teams and your yachts and your planes. All you want to do is get rid of the damn sore throat. That's just a sore throat. Multiply that by everything that's happening now and all the various things that, so health is so important. There's an old quote that says, if you have health, you have hope. If you have hope, you have everything. And I'm not here to lecture about wellness or anything like that, but I just want to bring out one quick point. We basically, as Americans, get 21 meals a week, right? 7 days a week times 3 meals. And I just want everybody to be mindful when they talk about moderation of those 21 meals. If you say, oh, I'm going to have pizza tonight, it's only tonight, I'm a little ice cream, and tomorrow I'm going to have, a big steak with this and ketchup, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to drink. Well, those are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meals of your 21 meals. That's a third of your stomach share. So I just want to bring awareness to the importance of health and the importance that you cannot enjoy it, anything, no matter how hard you work, if you don't take care of yourself. Number 2, take care of the people on the bus. Now, I have made my entire living. I got a 980 on my SAT. I had to really over-index in connecting with people. I've made my entire career has been built on relationships. And I've used very simple strategies. I'm going to share, I know there's some entrepreneurs listening, that have really accelerated my growth in business and even just my own personal networking with my friends and family, and really enriched those relationships to get people to root for me, to give me referrals, to get people to want me to win. And I'm going to share them with you right now. So the first thing is I do something called the 3 C's. I compliment, I congratulate, and I console every opportunity I can to those in my network, to my customers, to those closest to me. What does that mean? Hey, Brian, it's Jesse Itzler. I just want to let you know, man, I'm watching the way you parent. I'm a dad. I'm a father of 4. And it's so inspiring. Like, you spend so much time with your kids, and you're just such a good dad. And I just want to let you know, man, that I notice it, and it's really inspiring to me as a father. Now, Brian, he's not on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. He didn't sell his company. He didn't win an NBA championship. I'm calling him up out of nowhere, not when everybody's calling him, to authentically compliment him on something that I noticed. It's something that's going to stick out. He's going to remember that moment as an isolated moment for a really long time. I compliment, I congratulate too. Brat, I heard your son got into Duke University. That's unbelievable. I have 4 kids. If my kids get into Duke University, I'm going to be on cloud 9. Sara and I are on cloud 9 for you. Every chance you get to compliment a customer, a prospect, a mentor, whoever, you take it and you console. I had one of the most tragic things that could happen to a parent. I get a knock on my door. Sara and I were home. We get a knock on the door the next day. It's my friend Dougie Fresh, the rapper. I said, Doug, what are you doing here? He said, when you get news like that, you don't call, you show up. If you compliment, you congratulate, and you console, you stay on people's radar, you're in their lives, they're going to want to help you. That gives you permission to see them, call them, ask for stuff whenever you need something. But you got to stay on their radar. I have a hot 50 list. I have a list of 50 people I call every quarter, and I check in just to stay on their radar. The other thing I do is something called the 3-minute miracle. And anybody that listens and does this and takes advantage of this, you can thank me in 30 days or 90 days. It's very simple. I go to a basketball camp every year that Coach K, the basketball coach at Duke University, hosts for guys 35 and older. I've been going for the last 17 years. And I love it. It's I feel like an 8-year-old every year for a week at this camp. So I landed in North Carolina a couple of months ago, so I thought of Coach K. The camp is like 7 months down the road. No one's thinking about it. I text him, Coach, Jesse Itzler, just wanted to thank you for this, for the camp you put on. I know you don't have to do it, but I built amazing relationships. It's a highlight of my summer, and I just wanted to thank you. It took me 45 seconds. The coach could do 3 things with that. He might share it with his staff, got this really cool text. He might share it with his wife. He might do nothing, but I now have permission, if I see Coach K out at a dinner down the road, to say, hey, Coach, sent you this text. I'm not coming out of left field. Who is the first person the coach is going to hug at the basketball camp? 500 people. Who's he going to hug first? Me. Now that text took me 45 seconds. If I invest 3 minutes a day over the next, if we invest 3 minutes a day, over the next 30 days, I will send basically 100 texts, DMs, handwritten letters, however you want to communicate. I will reach basically 100 people. If I invest 10 minutes a day, I'll reach 300 people in the next 30 days. Now, if I'm consistent and I just carve out 3 to 10 minutes a day on my little journey, 3 to 10 minutes a day, I could hit at 10 minutes a day, 3,000 people over the course of a year. Now I'm planting seeds. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just reaching out and connecting. That's how you network. That's how you plant seeds. That's how you expand your reach. That's how, now I'm not saying that you're going to see the fruits of this immediately, but over time, the universe will reward you for all this connectivity, and that's how you build a deep, authentic network of people. The third thing I do is I fix my flats. So I take care of my bus, I take care of the people on the bus, especially those closest to me, and I fix my flats. A lot of us, as humans, we're anti-confrontation. We're wired to put more on our plate of what we like, but we ignore what's broken. You can't have an amazing journey here to here when you have something major that's broken in your life. For most people, it's finances, it's relationships, it could be weight issues. But if you don't address that one thing, that one big thing, at the beginning of the year or every year, even if you're rich in wealth or whatever, you're not going to be able to maximize your journey if you have this big weight on your shoulder. Here's a quick exercise we could do to identify it. So pretty much if you polled people, the number one thing they would want is to be happy. So let's do a quick happiness test. Imagine that all the buckets in your life, your finances, your health, your relationships, your job, where you work, everything, and put it in a giant blender and shake the blender up. And everything, put all the thoughts, everything going on in your head in a big blender. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 10 being the Dalai Lama of happiness and a 1 being someone that's rock bottom, what would your number be when you combine all those things? Think about it. Do it real quick. What's your number? And for most people, I'm going to guess probably a 6, 7, 8, which is amazing. Except if I come home with a 7, if you were a 7, on a 70 on a test, that's like a C or like a C+ in the most important bucket of your life, happiness. Now, what I love about the test is your brain automatically goes to a 10. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to be a 10. And immediately the 1 or 2 things that are impacting you bring it down to whatever your number was. So whatever popped in your head right away, those are the things you got to work on. So you got to fix your flats. Number 4, I'm a big believer in building your life resume versus your traditional resume. You know, we hear so much talk about your traditional resume and the importance of a resume, and it's true. But the average interviewer or those that review an application take about 6 seconds to scan the applicant's resume. And I believe that building your life resume, putting more experiences on your plate, doing more of the things you love to do, more things that are interesting, things that excite you, make you happier, more interesting, might land you the dream promotion because you're more interesting in talking about these experiences at work, might land you a better job because, you know, it separates you from everybody else. And I have invested a tremendous amount in experiences since I was 21, since I was sleeping on those couches. I've always tried to put more on my plate of the things I love to do with the people I love to do them with, because the more you experience, the more you have to offer. And there's an old Japanese ritual called the misogi. And the notion around a misogi is you do one thing so challenging or so big or so scary that the benefit lasts the entire other 364 days of the year. So if I was going to ask you, audience, what'd you do in 2011? What'd you do big in 2015? What'd you do 8 days ago you probably couldn't tell me, because most of us live like this. We go through life in routine. Who wants to go through life like this? Man, I want to go through life like this. I want to experience and challenge myself and, explore. I don't want to look back and be like, I was the 80% version of myself when my bus ride's over. Nobody signed up to be the 80% version of themselves. So you got to take time. There's a lot of messages about working 21-hour days. Of course you got to work hard, but you have to carve out to do the things you love to do, or you're going to resent your boss, your wife, your kids for taking away the things you love to do. And the way I do that is simple. I do one big thing a year defining event, my Misogi, and I try to carve out an hour to 3 hours every day for myself. It makes me a better parent. It makes me better at work. It makes me a better employee. It makes me a better son. It makes me a better husband. Again, because if I can check the box in something I want to do every single day, I'm going to be way more present. I'm going to be where my feet are at everything else that I'm doing during the day. People spend a lot of time talking about morning routines, and morning routines are important. But I'm a much bigger believer in evening routines. My day starts the night before. I'm not good enough to just wake up and wing it. What am I going to do today? My competition is too good. I carve out 5 or 10 minutes a night. I map out exactly what my day looks like, and I follow the script. So I'm super efficient. And in that script is time for myself. Lastly, mindset. Again, talking about just a couple of quick strategies on maximizing this short little time that we have here. Mindset. If every time that I speak at an event, the number one, you can Google it, the number one thing that people want is mindset. And I would be remiss if I didn't spend a couple of minutes talking about mindset before we move on to some quick Q&A. So what I'm about to share with you over the next couple of minutes is probably the most powerful advice I've received in the last decade. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, man, this is so hokey. Yet it's had probably the biggest impact on my life over the last couple of years. I'm going to share it with you right now. It's something you can do, your kids can do, you can practice it every day, it's free, it's relatively easy, and you can see the benefit of it immediately. So a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I was training for a race called the Last Man Standing. I do a lot of endurance runs and endurance challenges. And the format of the race is it's a 4.2-mile loop. You have an hour to do it. And if you finish it prior to that hour, you get a rest. So if I finish it in 50 minutes, you get a 10-minute rest because they line you up again at the top of the hour to repeat the 4.2-mile loop. And they keep doing that process until only one person is left standing, the last man standing. It can go on for days. So during my training, I did about 10 runs of 38 miles. And every time I got to 38 miles, my body shut down. I was done. And I convinced myself that that was my limit. I was maxed out at 38 miles. And I heard about this guy named Chad Wright, former Navy SEAL, that supposedly took somebody at the starting line of a 100-mile race that had only ran 5 miles, the most this person's ever run, and took that person all the way to the finish line of the 100-mile run by just repeating, I will not quit. I said, it's impossible. Nobody can run 20x what they've done. They can't go from 5 miles to 100 miles just by repeating it's impossible. But if it did happen, and this guy did have an impact that someone could 20x what they thought they could do, I want to 20x my business. I want to 20x my life. So I cold called Chad. I told him my issue, and he said, man, I could fix you in 2 days. 3 days later, he's at my dinner table in Connecticut where I was living. And the first day he's there, he doesn't say a word to me. He's got a long beard. He's just stroking his beard and taking notes. And I'm like, speaking of long beards, I got one too. And I'm like, this is crazy. And my friends are calling me up and they're like, what'd you learn? Did you change your cadence? Are you eating differently? Tell me about your breathing. And I'm like, he hasn't said a word to me. We go to dinner that night. He goes, tomorrow we start at 0500. We're going to meet at 4:45 in the kitchen and go over our mission. I'm like, what a waste. This guy flew all the way in. We're going to meet 15 minutes before the run. And we're going to blow through the through this 38-mile limitation that I have. We sit down and he goes, Jesse, today we're only going to do 3 things. And if you do these 3 things, you will shatter your 38-mile limitation. He said, the first thing is we're never going to give our pain a voice. What does that mean? He said, I know it's going to be hard. I know you're going to be in pain. It's going to be miserable. I know you are going to say, I don't have what it takes. I'm not good enough. The competition's too good. I don't have enough experience. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not good at this. I can't get a sale. I know you're going to feel all this. But once you say it, you give it power. He said, every time I ask you how you feel today, you're going to say, I feel outstanding. Chad, I feel outstanding. Number 2, we're never going to die in the chair. Huh? He said, no matter what, we're not going to, when we take our little break in between loops, we're not going to sit down and be like, we're done. We're going to leave it all out on the field. We're going to exhaust every option. No matter what, we're going to just go until we can't go anymore. Our job is simple. We keep going one foot in front of the other until we can't go anymore. And either we're victorious or we exhausted all the options and it just didn't work. Either one of those is acceptable. And once he said that to me, it really simplified things. Took the pressure off me. Like, I just got to try my hardest, leave it all out there, and either it's going to work or I just can look at myself in the mirror and be like, I just didn't work, and that's okay. And number 3, he said, even though, a lot's going on in the world right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, unstructured times with the coronavirus and everything going on, etc. He said, even though there's a lot going on, we got a lot to be grateful for. And we're going to flip the script from misery and I can't and this stinks to everything we're grateful for. Every lap, we're going to say something that every 4 miles that we are grateful for. That day, I did those 3 things and I ran well over 50 miles. Mark Brown, my friend who was with me, 2x'd his personal best. Fast forward, 2 months later, we're at the starting line of the Hennepin 100-mile race. Chad's running it with me. I get to mile 74, I'm broken. Broken. Chad can sense it. He goes, Jesse, he stops walking. I'm limping. He goes, I'm going to tell you something about me, man, that not many people know. It's a miracle. He goes, I never get tired. It's crazy. I never get tired. I want you to say it. I couldn't say it. I was exhausted. I'd be lying. I said, Chad, no, man. I said, no, I want you to say it. I said, Chad, I never get tired. He said, no, say it like you mean it. I said, Chad, I never get tired. I never get tired. He goes, I'm going to let you walk to the aid station a quarter mile away. But when we get there, you tell all the fine people that are serving us the food, the volunteers, the miracle of Chad and Jesse. We get to the aid station. They give us the food. I said, ma'am, I'm Jesse. This is my friend Chad. This is crazy, but we never get tired. We never get tired. He grabs me by his shirt. He goes, let's go. And we start running every mile. We don't get tired. 77 miles in, we don't get tired. 81, Chad, I'm not tired. 90, we don't get tired. 93, 95, 97, we're not tired. 99, all the way to the finish line. The words you speak are so important. Be mindful of the words that people around you say. I can't. Your son's not this. We're not this. We can't. We never did this before. We're not good at that. Over the next week, be mindful of the words that you speak. The words you say create an environment in your head of what it is you're becoming. I have it, my son is highly dyslexic. The teacher said, oh, your son is really struggling this week. No. Are you saying he's working really hard? He just hasn't grasped the concepts yet? Be mindful of the words that you speak. Now look, I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. The reality is the average American does live to be 78. Our window is super small. We have to take care of the bus. We have to take care of the people around us and mindful of the people on the bus, putting more on our plate of the things we love to do with the people that we love to do them with. We got to fix our flats. What is it that's broken? Instead of living in abundance and trying to make ourselves happy by putting more on our plate of, don't hide from the things that are broken. We got to work on our life resume versus our traditional resume, right? Spend time. What's the one thing you're going to do this year? What are the habits that we're going to do this year to make us better? What's the one defining thing that we're going to do every day? Are we setting our schedule the night before so we're super efficient? And then we have to be mindful of the words that we speak. Before I go, I want to leave you with something I wrote the other day. I'm at an age of 52 where my friends are getting diagnosed. We talk about we never know when that bus is going to end. I'm saying 78, 80, 90. We don't know. But for many of us, out of nowhere, things happen. I don't want to bring this on a downer, but I bet a lot of people on this that are listening right now don't have their gravesite picked out yet. Because we know we're going to die. We just don't believe it. They say health is the greatest gift and nothing is more enchanted. But we often go through life and take this ultimate gift for granted. Just the other day, my friend, true story, noticed something coming back from his son's lax game. He said he felt a little tired and had some weird lower back pain. Since his uncle had something similar that ultimately destroyed his health, he figured he should get it checked out. Better safe than sorry is what he said to himself. The doctor felt around and found something a little curious. He said, let's just get this scan to make sure it's nothing serious. And when the results came back, he asked my friend to please sit. He had some bad news to deliver. We found a tumor in your neck and it spread to your kidneys, to your lungs, and to your liver. My friend was like, this is impossible. I have a wife, 2 sons, and a daughter. The doctor held his hand firmly and said, yes, but I'll help you get your things in order. He thought about chemotherapy and alternative treatment for several defeating days. He even contemplated trying to cure it strictly with vegan ways. But with only 6 months to live, my friend chose to make the most and spend every waking moment with the ones he loved and held most close. And as he laid in bed thinking of what he'd done different if he had his years over again, he said he would have traded the hours of work for more hours with his family and friends. He would have had more adventures and experience and lived life for a living. He'd love more, worry less, and spend more time on charitable giving. But the one thing he told me to do is appreciate every day that we have to spend, because we never know when that bus ride we're on will abruptly come to an end. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Casey Krause, and along with our CEO, Todd Richardson, we will be hosting today's Q&A with Jesse Itzler and Carlos Whitaker. You know, the gift of being able to hold EdgeX virtually has allowed us incredible access to our keynote speakers and opportunity for all of you to engage with our guests. To that end, if you'd like to ask a question, just drop it in the Q&A below and type it in, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we launch into our Q&A, I'd like to thank again our presenting partners, MedExcel and Lucas Oil, and all of our corporate partners. It's because of all of them that we were able to have EdgeX and offer this unique live Q&A opportunity. So with that said, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our next guest, Jesse Itzler, who you just heard from today. Hey Jesse, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Thanks for being here. So I got 2 things before we get started, okay? So first off, I'm an Indiana boy. I played Indiana basketball, okay? But I figured if there was one time in my life I would rep a Hawks jersey, it would be today, sitting here with a co-owner of the team.
I love that. I love looking on you. Looks good.
Hey, second thing, man, I just wanted to thank you for welcoming myself and a few team members down to Atlanta a few weeks ago when we met with you. We often speak about being where your feet are, and you talk about that when you talk about being present. And when I think about that experience with you, you were just extremely present with us. You asked really thoughtful questions. You had high energy. You were very intentional. And I just want to let you know that we noticed that, and we appreciated it very much. So thank you.
Well, I'm a little bummed out because I know you guys are runners, and when you came to my house, you wanted to go for a run. And normally I would say, in any circumstance, I would say yes, but I'm homeschooling 4 kids,
Yeah.
and that was that one time I couldn't do it. So I'll rain check on that. I'll do an extra mile because of the Hawks jersey.
Hey, game on. And I'll take you up on the rain check, but we did get to share a smoothie together too, so that was great. Appreciate it. All right, well, let's dive in, okay? So, you know, while learning more about you and following a lot of your material, a lot of people think of the range you have. You know, you're a rapper, started and sold a jet company, coconut water company. You're an author, sports team owner, an ultra endurance athlete. So it's an incredibly wide range, but you often stress your role as a father and as a husband above all. So I want to start at a place that you're pretty comfortable with and that you speak of about a lot, and that's the dinner table for family dinners. So Jesse, for you, why are family dinners so important and valuable to you and your family?
Yeah, before I get into it, you touched on all these different topics and parenting and business and running and all these things. And, to me, success, people think of success and they immediately go to bank account. But success to me is being good at multiple things. It's being a good father or son or parent, a good friend, a good boss, being good at work. It's being well-rounded, and it's really, being good in multiple buckets. So that's something that's always been important to me. As far as the dinner table, there's a lot of research around the benefits of family dinners and families staying together, how important that family dinner is. As a child, my parents emphasized this. My mom had a cowbell, and I could go outside and play, but when she rang the cowbell, no matter where I was in the neighborhood, she had like an extra high-powered, high-pitched cowbell. I would come home for dinner. And I think, it's true of work. It's true of family. People want to be heard. Your employees want to be heard. You want to give your employees a voice. Your customers want to be heard. We want to be heard. And the dinner table is a great place for 6-year-olds or 52-year-olds to have a voice equally, to be honest. And it's also a great time for my wife and I, for our kids to just listen and for us to have an adult conversation and for them to be sponges. And we try to make our dinner table super festive. We dance after. We have a record player in there. We play freeze, family freeze. We mix it up. And it's become an event. It's a highlight for me, and it's a highlight for my kids. And it's also a rare point in today's world where we can escape from this, escape from TV, escape from everything, and truly be where our feet are and truly be present. So to carve out, 30, 45 minutes a night to get everybody together, to summarize the day, it's like I wouldn't trade that for anything, man.
Yeah, and it's almost rare these days, so it's really cool to hear that you and Sarah do that. So let's connect back to the keynote from today on the concept of the bus ride. You seem to focus on maximizing your time extremely well. You leverage every minute and hour of the day. So with that said, Jesse, will you walk us through maybe a typical day in the life where you highlight where and how you maximize your time? And maybe even better put is, what is the perfect day for you where you've maximized your time?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I wouldn't say that I am an expert at this or I was an expert at this years ago, certainly not in my 20s and 30s. I struggle with attention and I struggle with focus. So, but I'll walk you through it. I mean, for me, everybody talks about the importance of morning routines, but I'm a much bigger believer in evening routines. So my day starts the night before, where I lay out, actually I have it right here. You can actually see it on my board. I lay out my exact day the night before. I invest 5 minutes to map out my day. Today, I'm just following a script. My day was already established and won the night before when I mapped it out. They say that wars are won in the general's tent. It's laid out, and I just follow the script. What do I have to accomplish? What's most important to me? And a timeline. What are the top CEOs in America? What happens on a daily basis? They walk in, they have 3 assistants, they get handed a piece of paper. At 9:15, Casey's over here, 10 o'clock here, 11 o'clock meeting with Todd, 12 o'clock here. I don't have 3 assistants. So we don't have 3 assistants, so we map it out. So for me, it starts at night. And then I like to create early wins. I'm a big believer in momentum, small wins. So I try to start my day off with something. I need 7 hours of sleep. Some need 6, some need 5. I need 7. But I like to wake up and get a small win. And I like to do something for myself. Because I know that if I can set the tone by doing something that is important to me, I'm going to be way more apt to do something for my wife or my boss or a customer if I can check the Jesse box in the morning. That could be 15 minutes of Wim Hof breathing. It could be taking a walk, exercising, getting a steam. But I don't want to resent my wife or my boss for taking away things that I love to do. So if you said to me, Case, like, you can't run today, I'd be pissed at you. If I got my run in early, the rest of the day is gravy for me. I check the personal box. So my day starts with something for me, and then I just kind of follow the script. Personally, I shut down at 4. That wasn't the case when I was starting out in business. I would work to 11. But as you evolve, your life system evolves. So while I was having dinner at 11 o'clock at night when I was single living in New York. I now have dinner at 5. You have to evolve. So, I'm constantly looking at how can I improve my daily routine? How can I be more efficient with my time? I try to schedule every day sort of the same, like I time block. So for me, that looks like I work out. I 6 to 8 is with my kids. Actually 6 to 9 now because I'm homeschooling. 9 to 11 I work out. 11 to 1, let's just say, are only phone calls, podcasts, etc. So it's like really compartmentalized. So I don't have to think. I know 9 o'clock is my workout time, and I don't want to take too much on this question, but we get a lot of arrows that come at us every day. So I could be deep in a thought in a conversation with you, or a business meeting or a thought, and my phone might ring, and now I have to stop my thought, redirect my energy to deal with whoever's calling. Then I have to flush it out with this person. Then I have to reboot to get back and engage with you. It's exhausting. So I try to keep my arrows in buckets. I only take calls at certain times, meetings at certain times for my creative. I work for myself, so I can do that. But even at work, I try to compartmentalize that stuff to minimize the arrows.
That was actually a really good answer. James asked a question in our Q&A. He said, how do you deal with the unexpected events or that torpedo the plan in your day? So that was a pretty thoughtful answer about putting them in buckets like that. So very nice.
That stuff derails us, man.
Yeah.
Derails us. It takes so much. Like, what were we talking about? Then I got to like regroup, get my energy back. But if I'm like monotasking, and like right now, I am on this Edge X, man. You guys got my attention. But when we're done, it's done. I'm going to play soccer with my kids. And that's what I'm doing. Then I have a 5 o'clock. So like, I really try to be super present.
Be where your feet are.
There's a time for the torpedoes. Maybe 5 to 6 is put out the fire time.
I think that transitions well to our next question. You talk about doing stuff kind of for yourself. I want to talk about something else. So in seeing the ways that you challenge yourself, the quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts," seems to run true. So you seem to find kind of that collective potential with you and those around you, Jesse. Even in your Misogi challenges that you spoke of today, it seems like you're rarely ever doing them alone. So why is that important to you, and why would you suggest to others to do the same in finding that collective potential?
Yeah, Gandhi had a great quote: "Learn like you'll live forever, live like you'll die tomorrow." I like to do things with other people. I mean, I know I do some stuff alone, but in general, big challenges, I like people. I get energized from people. I learn from people. I get to teach people. You go from student to the master when you teach. I like to share those experiences and those moments. They're so memorable with people, and it's free. If I'm going to go jump in a cold plunge for the local fire department to raise money for the Special Olympics, and I can invite 20 friends, that's free. And it's going to be a memory that we're going to share. And even if they say no, they're going to appreciate the ask. So the ask is free. And the yes is forever. That memory is forever. So, but the honest, simple answer is I like it. I love, doing things and celebrating with people. Being an entrepreneur is lonely. People don't understand, man. Being an entrepreneur, it's lonely. The toilet breaks, you got to fix it. Somebody quits, you have to find the replacement. It's hard. So every opportunity I get to share is really good. And the other thing I would say is one of the best things about success, however you define it, or financial success, let's just say, is you get to treat the people you like the most to the things you like to do the most. You get to bring people along for the ride. And that's a part of success that I love. So if I can share that, you know, shame on me if I don't.
Thank you for that. I'm going to touch on a quote you said from your keynote today and then relate it to a question that just came in. So when you talked about mindset, you said this: the words you say create an environment in your head of what it is you are becoming. And Mitch Vanderhagen asks, or he says, Jesse, always killing it, brother. Your confidence is contagious. Can you elaborate on how you've built that or how you've always had it? Any mind hacks or talk tracks to improve this attribute?
Well, that's a really good question. I think I'm different at 52 than I was when I was 22. You know, I've realized, we talked about the bus ride, right, on the speech. I realized my own mortality, and in 100 years from now, there'll be a whole new, nobody on this call is going to be alive. There'll be a whole new wave of humans walking around the planet. So when you start to think about that and almost how insignificant we are in the scheme of the whole universe and time, you start to get a little bit more fearless. So over time, I've had a lot of regrets over things where fear beat me up and I didn't do it, and that led to regret. Like, I can't believe I was so scared about that. You know, so I like to ask myself 5 years from now, well, how will I feel? Is anyone going to remember this? Am I going to care? Am I going to regret it? Am I going to be happy I did it? Like, take myself out of the present moment where everything is so maybe overwhelming or unknown, and fast forward 5 years out. But I think the confidence is, and I think every entrepreneur listening has to have this. I mentioned this last night, but you got to believe in the end of the story. If you're single, you got to believe that person's out there somewhere. You have to believe that you can run the marathon you've never ran. You have to believe that you can successfully build a company. You have to believe that you can talk to this community with conviction and from a place of experience and add value. You have to believe in where you're going. And that's the definition of confidence to me. It doesn't mean you have to have all the skills. It doesn't mean that you have to have everything figured out. It doesn't mean you have to have all the experience. It doesn't mean the timing is right. It just, you have to believe that that end movie, that end vision, that end story can happen. And that to me is confidence. So I try to go into those scenarios with that belief. And by the way, if I don't have that, if I can't see that in my mind's eye, sometimes it's the universe's way of telling me I'm off course. And maybe this isn't the right lane for me.
Very well said. Very well said. I want to pop another question in here. This
Mitch
one's
is an animal, by the way. I know Mitch.
Yeah.
He's an animal.
Yeah, he is. Ron chimes in here and says, you're extremely inspiring. Who inspires you and why?
You know, they always say that you hear the expression, surround yourself with like-minded people. And I've always been like, why? They're just like me. I've always been attracted to unlike people that give me a new perspective. That's how you learn. So I have a lot of virtual mentors, people that I follow that for one reason or another. Maybe they're inspiring because I love the way they parent. Maybe they're inspiring because I like the way they conduct themselves in business. Maybe they're inspiring because of their, some of the challenges they've completed. So today you can have virtual mentors on YouTube, Instagram, for free. But I was blessed with a great business mentor. He passed away last year, and a great wellness mentor, Harvey Diamond, who wrote a book called Fit for Life. And he also passed away last year. But at a young age, I was around a lot of, I sold my company, Marquis Jet. I sold my first company, Alphabet City, when I was 27 to a guy named Bob Sillerman who did a roll-up. He bought 84 companies. We were the smallest and youngest founders of the 84 companies. But he put us in the room. at all the board meetings and advisory meetings with all these 84 business owners. And I was a sponge, you know, and at Marquis Jet, the greatest gift that I had wasn't the wire that Warren Buffett's company sent to us when we sold the company. It was at 30 years old, I was flying the 4,000 best top athletes, entertainers, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and I was a sponge. I wanted to know what their routines were. Every opportunity I had, I would ask, what time do you get up? Where do you keep how do you live rich? Where do you put your money? Where do you vacation? What doctors do you see? What do you invest? Like, I just wanted to know what makes these elite humans tick. And I, today, am a living compilation of those mentors, habits, routines that I've picked up over 52 years on earth. Some stayed with me, the ones that worked, some didn't. And I continue to add new habits, new routines, new mindset, and eliminate others as I get older. So it's like a constant evolution of habits and routines. And a lot of them come from mentors and people I don't even know, they don't even know I follow them.
Got an interesting question here from Max. He says, knowing what you know now, would you have stopped your rap career? That was a great story, by the way, in the keynote, he says.
Would I stop my rap career?
Yeah. Would you have stopped it?
Yes. I didn't have a choice. It stopped itself. The public said, you're in the wrong lane, man. Go do something else. And I started a jet company. Yeah. I loved it for what it was, you know, and this is going back to 1990, 1988, different era. And it's going back to me at 19 years old. I loved it, but, you know, it ran its course. Here's what's amazing, though. You know what was amazing? Back then, you sign a record label, any artist, it's incredible to me. They have to create an album cover. They have to create video ideas, an image, a brand, the actual content of the album. Then they have to market it. And it's like a crash course for me. I never took a business course. That was my Harvard education. And I realized, what I learned was everything I did wrong. You know, and I was able to apply that, and I still do, because when you get smacked in the face, you remember how it feels. So it's good to get smacked around once in a while.
There you go.
Once in a while.
Once in a while. There you go. Okay. I want to touch on building your life resume. Okay, so Jesse, when someone asks you what's on your life resume, what is on it, and how do you go about designing it? And maybe touch on how you help others get started on theirs.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in building your life resume versus your traditional resume. We put so much emphasis on our business resume, but we often neglect what I think is more important, which is our life resume, our experiences, our skills, what we learn, what we go through. So I spend a lot of time investing in those experiences. I had a financial advisor that came to my house. I've had like 50 financial advisors knock on our door or get a meeting, you know, to meet with Sara and I, and they're all the same pitch with a different logo. What do you put your bonds and your stocks, and are you conservative? What's your risk tolerance? And, you know, different logos, names. And then finally a guy comes in, he's like, let me ask you a question. If you could leave your kids a boatload of money or a boatload of life experiences, what would you do? And of course the answer is life experiences. So at a very young age, I've taken time every day for myself, and I've tried to make sure that I do one year-defining thing every year. There's an old Japanese ritual called the misogi, and the notion around a misogi is you do something one time, so hard, one time a year, that the benefits last the entire 364 other days of the year. So I was going to ask you, you know, like, Case, what'd you do in 2011, 15? You'd probably be like, what'd you do 8 days ago? Most people listening here couldn't answer because we go through life in routine. I always try to put one year-defining thing on my calendar, and I still do. So last year, I did a race called Last Man Standing. This year, I'm doing a race called Ultraman. You know, and I can go back. I could just go back in time and kind of rattle off some of these things. So that's one simple tactic I would encourage everybody in 2021. What's that one thing that you want to do you've never done that's going to kind of, forget work, define you and your year? You know, something hard, something big, something challenging, maybe a trip, you know, whatever. But it's really important, because if not, you're 85, you're 80 years old, you're at the end of the road, you're like, man, I wish I would have. I can't believe I didn't. You know, where'd all the time go? You know, and none of us want that.
Got one question that came in here from Deb. This is a good one. So she says, I love your energy and your message. How do you deal with when you're close to those who don't have the same energy or drive as you do?
Well, you know, I don't really worry about other people. I try to surround myself with people that are high energy. I'm on friend reduction right now. I want, you know, like more isn't better. Better is better. So it's not like, you know, everyone's like more likes, more followers, more this. How about like quality of people in your life? So, and I try to just lead my life the way I want to lead my life. It's not dictated by other people. I feel badly sometimes when I see people making decisions that I think are wrong, but it's not one without anybody asking me. You're asking me questions, so I'm answering. I wouldn't just knock on your door and say, hey man, you're doing this wrong. You know, again, my system evolved and it works for me, but everybody has to find out through trial and error what works for them. I just said this the other day, but like before there was marketing, there was this crazy thing called common sense. So before we were bombarded with advertisements telling us that, like, you know, that XYZ athlete says this is the best food or product for you. You know, we're like, okay, that they're spending $1 billion to convince me of that, but that doesn't mean it's right. So I like to try things on my own and see what works for me. And hopefully that rubs off on those closest around me.
Well said. Well said. Okay, let's talk to the leaders out there who might be parents, mentors, coaches, or maybe in a position to influence others who might be younger. So you gave a story in your keynote about your son's teacher praising his efforts versus his abilities. I think this is important. So will you speak more about the power of praising effort versus results for those leaders out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just redefining failure, you know? It's just about if we're very, and rightfully so, we operate in a world that's result-driven. But ROI, return on investment, comes in many different forms. And sometimes the return on your investment isn't financial. Sometimes it's effort, and sometimes the lessons. And the one thing you can control is effort. As a parent, you know, I think I want my kids to live up to their potential. You know, I was with my brother, and we were talking about my son, who's a swimmer. And my brother asked me how he's doing. I'm like, you know, he's really good, but he doesn't try that hard. And my brother's like, well, that's okay, as long as he's happy and he's enjoying the swimming. And I'm like, no. He'd be happy playing Fortnite and eating Haagen-Dazs all day. That's not what I want. I want him to, like, try hard and live up to his potential. And, you know, kids like to be praised, and by praising the effort, you're real, you know, hey, you know, you scored, instead of saying you scored 20 points in your basketball game, saying, I really enjoyed how hard you tried tonight. All that hard work and practice really paid off. It was fun to watch. You know, that's kind of the tone that I used, because I want them to try hard.
Love it. All right, let's go with the last question here. Okay, so it's kind of a two-parter. So first off, imagine you could go back to your 25 or 30-year-old self. There's a lot of people in the audience that are of that age. And give yourself some advice about your life to come. What would you say? And if you could jump forward to your 75-year-old self and give some advice, what would you tell yourself, Jesse?
Well, I mean, the 20s and 30s are a great time to say yes to everything. Adventures, meetings, conferences, things like this. And your 40s and 50s are a great time to say no. So in your 20s, you know, there's a lot of messages out there about working 23-hour days, and, you know, you got to work. Obviously, you have to work. but it's equally as important, in my opinion, to not lose your 20s. Like, there's nothing wrong with being 23 and doing what 23-year-olds are supposed to do. Try things, experiment, travel a little, take a chance, go do things, open up to be open, walk around with open eyes. So in my 20s, if I could go back, I would say I did a really good job of that. I was in multiple businesses. I was a kiddie pool attendant. I sold carrot and celery sticks. I sold T-shirts. I did jingles. I cleaned meat trucks. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, I had a private jet company. See, we're always one idea away from changing the trajectory of our life. We're one idea, one relationship, one referral, So in my 20s, I cast a really wide web, and I put myself in a position to attract luck. I was out there, you're not going to get lucky watching the Kardashians on your couch. You got to go and attract it. Meetings, people, networking, putting yourself out, taking a risk, writing letters, thanking people, DMing people, like constantly. So that would be my advice in the 20s. In my 70s, like I said earlier, I don't want to have any, this is so simple. I can't even explain how simple this game is. I got news for everybody here. There's only two options. Either you're going to be 70 or you're not. Either you're going to make it to 70 and 80 or you're not going to make it to 70 and 80. So let's fast forward to 70, all right? I don't know. I just hiked Mount Washington with my son a year or two ago. There were no 70-year-olds at the top of the mountain. I went wakeboarding this summer with my family. I didn't see any 70-year-olds on the lake. Not a lot of 70-year-olds doing the stuff doing the last man standing race I just did, like zero. The window to do stuff, it's short, man. It's short. So I recognize that. I think that's my superpower. I'm mega aware of my relationship with time. So I don't want to regret. I don't want to say, man, I wish I would have when I can't do it. My wife's, I want to do this race called Badwater. It's a 137-mile run through Death Valley. And my wife's like, why do you want to do that? Like when you're 70, your hips and your knees. And I'm like, when I'm 70? You think I'm saving everything in my tank till I'm 70? There's no guarantee of 70. And when I'm 70, I'm going to say to myself, well, my hips are okay. I wish I would have ran the damn race when I was 52. I live with urgency, man. I live with tremendous urgency. If I have a chance to create a memory or a moment, I take it.
Incredible answer. I could do this all day. So, Jesse, thanks so much for your energy, your thoughtful responses, and the time you spent with us today. Incredible experience for myself and everyone in the audience, I'm sure. So thanks so much. We appreciate you.
Oh, man, thank you guys for having me. And I loved having you guys at the house. Like I said, I owe you a run and probably 100 burpees because you got the Hawks jersey on. So thanks for that. And thanks, everybody, for listening. It was an honor to be here. And thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Jesse.